Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Tech in 10, the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs post-game show from the Ruston Daily Leader. I am sports editor Matt Bellinson coming to you after Louisiana Tech's 55-14 win over the Sam Houston Bearcats. The only time that Ruston fans will be happy that the Bearcats lose. I was saving that one in case Louisiana Tech won this one. So, a great win for Louisiana Tech. A win that they needed to have. This is Sam Houston. Maybe UMass can have an argument, but Sam Houston is one of, if not the worst team in the entire country. And so, when you just look at every single statistical category, look at their record, they are winless. They're 0-8. This is a game that Louisiana Tech had to win. Your 100th homecoming game, one of your last two home games of the entire year, coming off two straight losses, an overtime loss to Western Kentucky and an embarrassing loss at Kennesaw State. This was a game that Louisiana Tech had to have, and they did it. I think that's where I'm going to start. So many times I've come on here in previous years, and even this season, where Louisiana Tech has an opportunity and they squander it. And it's a game where you go in thinking like, man, Louisiana Tech has a lot of advantages and a lot of different things. And then they waste it and they don't execute, and then they come out on the losing end. Tonight was not one of those games. Louisiana Tech from the jump, they scored on their opening touchdown, which we've seen before, but then they kept their foot on the gas. They were up 27-0 at half. This game was pretty much over. Sam Houston had a couple, explosive plays. Got up to 14 points, and we're going to talk about Tech's defense performance later. But it obviously starts with the offense. I think just a really solid night on the run. The run game. It's one of those performances where I don't want to declare that this means that Louisiana Tech has made it offensively. Yes, they figured it out, guys. They figured all the run game problems out. Clay Thevenin and Omari Wiggins, all conference players. It's one of those games where, again, you looked at it on paper, you're saying, okay, Sam Houston has a bottom 15 run defense in the entire country. They're giving up over 460 yards of total offense. They have one of the worst third down defenses in the entire country. Coming in, this was a game where I'm thinking, man, if Louisiana Tech's offense doesn't score now, when are they going to score? And they did. And so I think, it's just one of those things where we've seen this program fall on its face so many times, and we've seen this program not be able to meet a moment, that I think you have to credit and you have to acknowledge that tonight they did not fall on their face. They did not embarrass themselves. They met the moment. They established themselves as an offense that when they put things together, they have some intriguing pieces. I really do think that Blake Baker, if he stays healthy, if he's able to, stay in this program, I think he's a very solid quarterback. I think his deep ball is one of the best that I've seen at Louisiana Tech. Him and Devin Gandy clearly have a nice downfield connection that has worked this year. He obviously, I think, throws a 36-yard touchdown on the first drive, and then I think he completes a 41-yard pass later in the game. And obviously he and Eli have a really nice connection, and then obviously Marlon Jackson coming off a 100-yard game against Western Kentucky. I really feel like Blake is starting to find himself as a passer, which I think is super important because, again, through the first 4 or 5 games of the season, Louisiana Tech was a bottom 5 passing offense in the entire country. And so I think it's really encouraging to see Blake really emerge as a passer, find some more consistency. He threw a bad interception tonight. The Marlon Jackson did not take the corner, over the middle, and did not kind of, get in front of his face, and that was, I think, an unfortunate play by both players, and so obviously a play that Blake would like to have back. But overall, what he finished with tonight, let's look, 221 passing yards, 1 touchdown. He also had 42 rushing yards and a touchdown as well. So, you'll take that from your starting cornerback. And again, when your offense is rushing for 425 yards at basically 11 yards a carry, you're going to take that too. I think Clay Thevenin, overall this season, I think has been the most consistent running back for this team. And Omari Wiggins has looked good at times. Andrew Burnett has had his moments. But I think over the last couple of weeks, particularly in these conference games, I think Clay has really established himself as kind of the explosive running back. And I think you even saw it tonight. Obviously, the 50-yard touchdown run, really great in the open field. I think this program clearly sees him as kind of that first down, every down back, and I think Omari kind of comes in whenever they need to, kind of just give him a breather and just kind of change things up offensively. So, again, I want to start by giving Louisiana Tech credit because, again, you come off 2 straight losses, including a heartbreaking overtime loss. This is an opportunity where you could have overlooked Sam Houston. They're a winless program. And they didn't. And they met the moment. They got an easy win. And they took care of business. They gave their home fans, which, by the way, like I feel like I've said this twice this year, but man, like that was one of the best student turnouts that I've seen. And like it's one of those things where I don't really understand why they continue to leave after the first half, like consistently. I get it's Halloween night, so they probably have things to do, but it's just kind of strange that the students don't stay. But regardless, it was a great student turnout. It was a great environment in that first half, and Louisiana Tech met the moment and came out with a win. That being said, I think it's one of those performances where you look at it and it's great on paper. It's a performance that this offense will desperately take. When I come in here week after week and saying like this offense is broken, they don't have answers consistently, and I still have some questions because again, I think again I'm not saying like the win tonight doesn't count, and I'm not saying what they did production-wise doesn't matter because it does, but at the same time, like again, you're going against one of the worst teams in the entire country defensively. You're talking about a defensive unit that is giving up 40 points a game pretty much. Like it's one of those things where like again, Louisiana Tech basically was just given this game. Like there was no resistance in the run defense by Sam Houston whatsoever. They made a couple nice plays on the ball in the pass game, but I mean by and large, like Louisiana Tech did not really have a moment where they were challenged pretty much offensively outside of mistakes that they created. Obviously they had 2 turnovers themselves, and so it's one of those games where it kind of reminds me again of the New Mexico State game earlier this year, the Middle Tennessee game of years past, where like it's one of those performances where like okay, it looks great and that's an awesome feeling. Then you will take the win 100%. You're now 1 win away from a bowl game. Like there's no doubt that Louisiana Tech should celebrate this win. But it's one of those games where you're thinking like okay, you're not going to play a defense this bad again. You're not going to play a defense that is so poor in so many different categories. And so it's one of those things where I'm thinking like okay, if I'm a Louisiana Tech fan, like what specifically can I actually believe in as I leave this game tonight? And again, I really do feel like Clay Thevenen over the past couple of weeks has really established himself as a really good running back. I definitely feel like moving forward, if this team commits to the run game, I think he can give you explosive plays. I think this was the best performance that this offensive line has given up. Blake Baker was not under pressure whatsoever, and obviously they ran for 460 whatever yards. It's just one of those things where I guess moving forward, can that be sustainable? I think as far as Clay, yes. I think as far as Blake as a consistent passer and making downfield plays, I think we've seen that over the past couple of weeks. And so I think I truly believe in Blake as a passer. I'm still a little bit skeptical of how much he really needs to run. He definitely can get upfield. He can scramble a little bit, but I think at times he's a little bit careless with the football just as far as his placement. So I think I would maybe hesitate to give him 10, 15 rush attempts a game, but certainly if he needs to scramble and pick up yards with his legs, he can do that. So I think as far as those particular aspects of the offense, I think that's sustainable. I think Devin Gandy, in flashes has proven that, hey, if you need an explosive pass play downfield, he's good for about 2 or 3 of those a game. Now, again, you probably would like that a little bit more consistently throughout the course of an entire football game, but I think for where this offense is and what the personnel is on this offense, I think you'll take someone that's making those explosive catches, when frankly you weren't getting those for the first couple weeks. So I think there's some individual moments, individual players that are definitely proving week after week now that you can trust them. Individually, they can make plays and they can flash, but I think as a system, I think as an offensive infrastructure, I just need to see you go up against a real defense, frankly, and do this. Like again, Delaware, is no slouch, and you're going on the road, next week, a place that you have 3 road wins in basically 4 seasons here. So certainly winning on the road is not going to be an easy task for this program, and so I'm really curious to see what Louisiana Tech's offense looks like because again, it was a really encouraging performance. I am frankly excited to see if they're able to sustain this. But it's one of those things where, again, we've done the song and dance too many times over the years where like they seem to put all of their offensive production into one game, and then like the next 2 or 3 games, it's like they forget how to score. It's like they forget how to sustain drives and run the football. So certainly an encouraging performance. I'm excited about it, and certainly if you're a Louisiana Tech fan, I think you should be too. I just need to see more. I just need to see you go up against a real competent FBS defense, and then we can talk. And then we can talk about this team, obviously making a bowl game, potentially still in the Conference USA race. But again, for right now, it's a win that you needed to have. It's a terrible Sam Houston team that you definitely put your foot on their throat and you didn't let up. So that's a great sign. Beyond that, Defensively, again, they gave up 14 points, so it's not like they were, giving up explosive plays left and right. But at the same time, like Sam Houston didn't even crack 400 yards in a single game this year prior to tonight. And what did they finish with? 502 yards of total offense, including 296 yards rushing. I mean, that is just so out of character for what this defense has shown. Look, coming into this game, Louisiana Tech was actually leading Conference USA in league play, allowing 94 rushing yards a game in league play. That's excellent. And then you give up 296 to a rushing offense that ranked 113th in the country. So, and I understand like people are going to keep saying like, oh, well, Colby Fields is out. Like, again, I'm just going to keep going back to like Colby Fields is an excellent player. He's a defensive leader. He makes a lot of plays. Colby Fields not being out there, like one player does not mitigate like a defense's performance, and so it was super discouraging to see this defense get run up and down. Like over the past couple of weeks, it had kind of been the pass defense for this unit that had kind of disappointed and not performed to a high standard. And I think now, as the lights kind of go off on me here, at Joe Stadium, I think it's one of those things where you're thinking like, man, like, do we have to worry about the run defense now? Do we have to worry about like, can this unit like get in a gap, and can this defense tackle? Like, I mean, there were so many moments tonight where it's like, man, Sam Houston is just getting like multiple yardage, like plays when they're not even being touched. Like there was just so many free rushers, so many opportunities where Louisiana Tech could have gotten off the field. There were so many opportunities where they could have, held Sam Houston to under 10 yards on a rush, and they just couldn't come up with a play, couldn't come up with a tackle. So again, like it's kind of similar to the offense where like we had not seen this as far as this defense not being able to perform. So like I'm not going to say like I'm concerned that this is the new normal for the defense. They had not proven to be a terrible run defense up to this point. So again, it's one of those things where let's see what they look like next week against Delaware, a team that is pretty average to not very good at running the football at times. They're really good in the passing game. So I'm curious to see what Louisiana Tech's defense looks like next week, because again, like this is a very uncharacteristic performance. Again, you only give up 14 points because again that offense is so terrible, but at the same time they put up 500 yards of total offense on you. Like that is not a good day at the office. And so it's one of those things where like again, you leave this game with a win, you leave happy, you're 5-3, you're still alive, mathematically in the Conference USA race. But like defensively, you got to figure out what is going on frankly since that Kennesaw State game. Just in a lot of different areas, this defense has not looked the same, and so I'm really curious to see next week on the road at Delaware, can this defense rise up and kind of get back to the standard that we saw? Obviously, Jacob Fields makes a great play on the ball. 6 defensive touchdowns for this program. Just again, kind of getting back to just an incredible stat that I just still can't believe is a thing. 6 defensive touchdowns in the season. You're lucky if you can get 1 or 2. Overall. We still have 4 games left, and so super encouraged by Louisiana Tech's, I think, just ability to take the football away and score points off of it. I think just, again, like it's one of those things where if you're this defense, like you got to get back to the identity of this team. You got to get off the field. You got to create more pressure on the quarterback. You got to find ways to get off the field and not allow teams that frankly have no business, putting up this kind of yardage on you. You got to put your foot down and rise up, and someone's got to make a play and say that enough is enough. So again, it's one performance in a season that this defense has been pretty great, and so I'm not going to say that this is how this defense is going to perform now. There's been multiple games without Colby Fields, so again, I think we're past that point as far as using that as an excuse. But again, offensively and defensively, I think some highs and some lows. Let's see what it looks like next week against a real team. Let's see what it looks like next week against a team that has something to play for, against a team that is frankly right there with you in the conference standings, that basically the winner of that game next week can remain alive in the conference hunt. So again, Louisiana Tech wins 55-14, a really encouraging win, an exciting win for Louisiana Tech fans, a much-needed win. And now there's 4 games left. 3 of your last 4 games are on the road, a place that this program has had trouble winning. Let's see if they can do it. And if they do, credit them, and they can silence the doubters. And if they don't, then I'll be here to talk about it. So that's going to do it for this edition of Tech in 10. I appreciate you guys listening and following along. Thanks for listening. Have a good one.